Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another Reddit Stories video. Today, we'll be covering a very exciting and terrifying topic, true scary Reddit stories. All of these stories are real and verified. Some of them are extremely disturbing. I'm really excited to dive into this one, because true stories are always my favorite. You know, they're real, and that makes them super interesting. These stories are scary, unsettling, and some are just plain weird. But I'm sure you'll enjoy them. These videos are perfect to listen to if you're studying, sleeping, relaxing, or just in the mood to watch something chilling. So whatever you're doing, this video is a great fit. And before we jump in, please don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Let's get into it. Life in Nebraska, where the narrator grew up, might seem typical at first glance. A small city surrounded by vast fields, expansive farmland, and a constant rhythm of rural life. But for the narrator, these familiar surroundings took on an eerie significance, especially during the late-night drives to her friend's house, which was located at the farthest edge of town. As the city grew, larger mansions were constructed in the outskirts, but they stood in stark contrast to the isolation that surrounded them. A person could walk down the road at night and hear nothing but the wind rustling through the cornfields. For the narrator, there was always a palpable sense of dread whenever she drove out to her friend's place, especially as she passed the cemetery on the edge of town. Something about those winding roads, darkened by towering trees on both sides, with little to no lighting, created a menacing atmosphere. It was only a matter of time before the darkness of the rural landscape began to intrude upon her sense of safety. One evening, after a class that ended late, the narrator began her usual drive to her friend's house. The roads were eerily quiet, the night air still. She had driven this route countless times, but on this particular night, the loneliness of the road felt heavier. The headlights from her car were the only light cutting through the night, casting long, flickering shadows as they passed the cemetery. As she approached the edge of town, something strange caught her eye, a family walking along the road. There was nothing particularly out of the ordinary about them, except for the setting: a tall, slim woman, a man of average height, and a child with short hair. But their clothing struck her as unusual. It wasn't tattered, but it wasn't new or nice either. Their faces were obscured, but it was the absence of a light source that unnerved her the most. No flashlights, no street lamps, nothing to illuminate them, nothing to reveal who they were or where they were going. The mother was pushing a stroller, and the child appeared to be around 8 years old. The sight of this family walking down a completely dark road, miles away from the nearest neighbor, sent a chill down the narrator's spine. It was as if they didn't belong in the world she inhabited. Was it a coincidence that they were out there? Or was there something more sinister lurking beneath the surface? She couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. A few nights later, after finishing a late class, the narrator once again made her way down the same dark road. This time, she noticed a man walking alone. He was dressed in a yellow shirt, and the way he was walking seemed unnatural. His movements were erratic, like he was pacing or waiting for something. She felt a sinking feeling in her stomach as she passed him. Something was off, but she couldn't pinpoint what exactly. As she continued, the fear of the unknown began to gnaw at her. She couldn't help but glance in the rearview mirror, wondering if the man was following her. The sense of paranoia started to creep in, and the eerie sensation that something was watching her became all-consuming. When she reached her friend's house, she thought little more of it, chalking it up to nerves. But the next day, when she was out running errands, she heard sirens wailing nearby. The same man she had seen walking down the road had been arrested at a nearby crack house, and the police found several other people involved in illegal activity. The connection was too strange to ignore. The man's presence had felt like a warning, a prelude to something darker that was unfolding just outside the edges of her life. It wasn't long before her paranoia escalated into something more sinister. One evening, after leaving work, the narrator was driving home when she noticed a van tailing her. The van followed closely, and just as she turned onto a quieter street, it pulled up behind her and stopped. Before she could react, the sliding door of the van swung open, and a man jumped out. His movements were fast and aggressive, as if he had been waiting for the perfect moment to act. The van's door was still open when he rushed toward her, and in a flash, he was right next to her car. He moved with alarming speed, and it seemed as though he was going to drag her into the van. The terror surged through her veins as she instinctively locked her doors, heart pounding in her chest. In that moment, her survival instincts kicked in, and she slammed the accelerator to speed away. The man stood there, watching her drive off, and the van sped away in the opposite direction. Her mind was racing, processing what had just happened. What was his intent? Why had he chosen her? There was no explanation, only the feeling that she had narrowly escaped a dangerous encounter. One day, while shopping with her father, the narrator experienced yet another unsettling incident. A woman approached the counter, claiming to be stranded and in need of a ride to a nearby town. She seemed harmless enough at first, but the longer the narrator observed her, the more uncomfortable she felt. There was something about the woman's presence that was wrong, something that didn't sit well with her gut instincts. The woman looked directly at the narrator, her gaze piercing through her. Her cold stare sent shivers down the narrator's spine, and she couldn't shake the feeling that this woman wasn't just an ordinary passerby. What was her real reason for being there? The interaction ended quickly when the woman left, but the unease lingered, and the narrator couldn't help but feel that this encounter wasn't just a coincidence. As time went on, the narrator found herself entangled in a dangerous situation she had never anticipated: a stalker. It started innocuously, an unexpected message from a man she had barely spoken to. At first, it seemed harmless, just a strange comment, but as days passed, the messages became more personal, more intense. The man seemed to know details about her life that he shouldn't have. His messages grew increasingly creepy, mentioning things about her smile and how he had seen her at various places. The intensity of his obsession left the narrator feeling trapped in a nightmare. She tried to ignore him, but his presence lingered in the corners of her life. The messages grew more threatening. She found herself checking her surroundings, always feeling that someone was watching her. It became unbearable, a constant weight on her chest. Every knock on the door, every passerby, every car that slowed down near her house felt like it could be him. The narrator's worst fear seemed to come true one night when she came home to find her apartment door slightly ajar. She entered cautiously, feeling an odd sensation in the air. As she moved through the hallway, she saw someone lurking in the shadows. It was her roommate, acting strange, distant, and uncommunicative. She quickly realized that something was horribly wrong. Her roommate had become increasingly erratic over the weeks, and her behavior had taken a violent turn. The narrator found herself trapped in her own home with a person she thought she could trust. The tension in the room was palpable, and the air was thick with the potential for danger. She locked herself in her room and called a friend, her mind racing with fear. What would happen next? Would she be able to escape unscathed? The night dragged on with the oppressive sense that something terrible was about to happen. The saying, "Carpe diem," is not just advice from an ancient philosopher. It still resonates in our minds even in today's modern world. In this society, where everything happens at a fast pace, where technology and information are overflowing, we are constantly caught up in the busyness of life. And sometimes, in that rush, we forget that the most important thing is to live fully in the present moment. We always think we must go faster, do more, and strive to achieve our goals. But sometimes, in the process, we miss the precious moments that we can only truly feel when we stop and live in the now. Today, we live in a world where everything is driven by the relentless progress of technology. The smartphones in our hands bring us information in an instant. Social media connects us to the world, but at the same time, they make us forget the stillness and the value of each moment. It's hard to enjoy a moment when we constantly feel that we need to do one more thing. To prepare for a future that hasn't happened yet. To worry about what might happen tomorrow. If you look back, have you ever felt that you missed important moments in your life simply because you were too busy worrying about things that haven't arrived yet? Or too many plans for the future? We get caught up in an endless cycle, thinking that happiness is a destination we need to chase. But is that really true? Are we missing important moments in our own lives just because of worries about tomorrow? Are we letting our busyness obscure the presence of the present? Is happiness truly a destination? Or is it a journey that we should enjoy from the small moments we have right now? In the end, the narrator's life was shaped by these unsettling encounters, each one adding to a larger story of fear and survival. She learned to trust her instincts, to recognize the subtle signs of danger, and to never ignore the uncomfortable feeling that comes from being in the presence of something or someone wrong. The horror isn't just in the encounters themselves. It's in the realization that danger is always lurking, just out of sight, waiting to emerge when we least expect it.